Hey there, I'm Todd, and this is my best friend Todd. Back in college, we ran a radio show named TNT. Fast forward a couple decades, and here we are reunited because
everybody has a podcast, right? Welcome to the Todd Pod.
We're here to dissect pop culture, throwing our 2 cents on the latest movies and sports,
and maybe talk about some history and news. When was the last time you saw a pooper scooper following a horse in a parade? How many different ways can you say poop?
Where are the Azores? Do they have horses? We will answer all these questions and more on this episode of the Todd Pod.
I'm going to dive into history and the magnificent Manhattan Manure mystery of 1894.
But before we do, hit that like and subscribe button and leave a comment on today's topics and other topics you want to hear. Now let's get the dirt out. Okay.
It's a new year. 2024, and I have to tell you, one of the things I wanted to do was not eat as much fast food. So we've been cooking more at home for the 3 days of 2024.
But 3 days, yeah, because it is the 3rd.
Yeah, it's January 3rd today is when we're recording this, and I gotta tell you something. I feel better. Feel better.
Wow.
Feel better about myself.
Huh? Amazing.
This is how
you've really started off strong.
This is how habits are born. One day at a time.
What did you eat on the 31st? About 12 Whoppers.
Some wings, some pudding, a lot of shrimp. It was the combination of like
one meal.
It was a combination of like bad land food and bad seafood that
I like to take my shrimp and just dig it in that pudding and just use it as kind of a spoon.
Let's see how many I can fit in my mouth.
You say pudding, I say cocktail sauce.
Exactly.
I tell you something, it made for an eventful New Year's Day. You know, spending some time on the bowl on that one.
Well, as we learned last episode, you can make a lot of cash on that bowl.
A
lot of turd treasure. Or toilet treasure. Turd treasure's good. Sorry, I shouldn't have been like that. Yeah,
what'd you call it? Turd treasure?
Toilet treasure. I was cracking up when
toilet.
Eric, the producer, said, call it toilet treasure.
Hey, you should click this link here for that video.
Yeah, exactly.
As he points into random space. Anyway, so Wilson, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about I'm on the bowl and I'm doing my research, and I come across this article, this post on Facebook, and I started doing some research onto it, and it's true. It's based on this work from this guy Morris, who's an urban planner out of Clemson University. And he talks about how in 1894, there was a massive horse manure problem.
Yes.
Like massive.
Yes, that everyone knows that. That was common knowledge.
Do they though? Like in your history books, do you remember the horse manure issue of 1894 in New York City?
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Came between the Civil War and World War II.
Which is basically all American history. Like kids are like, I'm going to learn about the Civil War and then World War II. Yeah. There was a war in the middle, but anyway, so
1894. This is really only 130 years ago.
About that. Yeah.
130 years ago. There's probably someone alive who remembers this.
Well, if they don't, they smelled it.
If they're 130.
They smelt it, they dealt it.
If they smell, if someone's around, they smelt it and dealt it. Okay,
do you know how much manure horses produce a day?
Yes, I do actually. I know
then
that exact
enlighten us.
Measurement. No, I don't. Pounds.
You don't follow?
10 pounds.
15 to 30 pounds of manure.
I was a little light.
It was produced. Do you know how many horses were in New York in 1894?
223.
No, much more.
How many?
150,000 horses in New York.
1894, 150,000 horses.
I'm not a math guy.
Now, I mean, how many people could drive you around Central Park? Was everyone going around Central Park or something in carriages?
That was the only way to get around was the horses.
So they went around the whole city in the horses.
It's 1894. You have 150,000 horses producing 30 pounds of poop a day. That was 3 million pounds. 3 million pounds of horse caca.
Okay.
Per day.
Yeah, I'm glad you changed it up. Could we not just try to think of a new word every time when you say poop or something? Just
so instead of poop, say manure or caca.
Yeah, manure, caca. I don't know.
Can you imagine you have to dispose of
horse lumps.
3 million pounds of horse droppings. 3 million pounds of horse droppings per day.
Poop is raining from the ceilings.
So you're figuring 20 pounds at 150,000 horses. That's
more or less.
1.5 million pounds. 3 million.
More or less. On top of that, there was 40,000 gallons of horse urine.
Mm-hmm.
New York City stunk. More than today.
I mean, but is it? Has it changed?
I was just in the city last week.
And there's not 150,000 horses running around? There's not.
There's not 3 million pounds of turds. Although it still does have a distinct stench. So
New York City, I bet you if you would do some soil samples, you would find horse poop.
Remnants of the droppings. Remnants of the trail pebbles.
I think you would find scat among the cobblestones of the Undercity of New York.
Can you imagine walking around New York trying to dodge horse missiles?
3 million pounds a day
of horse missiles. So
after 10 days, you've got 30 million pounds of poop.
That's a metric poop ton.
And then at 100, you've got 300 million. And then at 300, you've got that's 1 billion pounds of poop.
1 billion pounds. And where do you think? So there was a job, get this, there was a job in 1894 where you had a crossing sweeper that would stand on the street corners. Mm-hmm. And you would go up, and if you were really rich, you would pay this crossing sweeper a fee, and they would clear the path through the gunk.
So you just wait until someone rich that came by to come by, and then you just kind of walk behind them.
That's it. That's right.
That's how you got around New York. There's so much crap in the streets. Is that what it was? Did they have any sanitation, or what was going on there?
Well, think about it. If it rained, right? Mm-hmm. If it rained, what happened?
It became poop waterfalls. Poop.
You had a stink swamp.
Ugh.
You had a scat fall. It was gross. Really, really gross.
Lots of droppings everywhere.
Yeah, if it gets hot and it dries out, it turns all of this solid waste into dust, which is then it goes in the wind, and then it goes in your lungs, and then the next thing you know, it's all over everything, and you come home and you're covered in.
This sounds like this happened to you like yesterday.
I'm just imagining it.
No, I think this happened to you yesterday. That's what I think. You're talking about it like it's really personal.
Listen. New York has a small percentage of the horses it used to have. A small percentage. And you still run the risk of stepping in it. You still run the risk of stepping into a big pile of Mets starting lineup.
I see like one big pile, and I can't. It's just so much. I went to New York. I visited this maybe 6 months ago, and I remember Central Park and just seeing some turds on the ground, some excreta, and it was I couldn't stand it. I went and I got the police, and I tried to have everyone arrested for doing something that unnatural and nasty in the
Too
city.
Too much number two.
Yeah, too much number two. But this was, can you imagine that? That was just a couple of horses. 150,000 of those things blasting off every day.
So there's so much bowel bounty that they could not actually get rid of because farmers would pay for it. Because initially, right, you have a bunch of horses, you get a farmer, they got to fertilize the field, right? Mm-hmm. So they take the back end bloopers and they're paying good money for that stuff to be scooped up, dumped in the farm.
So they would take it to the farm.
Correct.
So they did understand that poop was a fertilizer at that time.
They
had that technology and they used it.
But by the end of the 1800s, they actually had to pay the farmers to cart off the chocolate logs.
So they'd pinch a loaf into the street, and was there a company, or were they just farmers come from the countryside just to scoop it up and go?
I don't know if they're lining up for fudge nuggets or what they're doing.
When a horse grew a tail, it would so a farmer from the city would just have a shovel and he'd just scoop it up and just take it back to the farm. Is that how it worked, or was there a whole industry?
Tosses the log mudslide into his wagon and hauls that thing out of town to his farm. I gotta believe some entrepreneur, some wise organization, somebody, the likes of James Pierpont Morgan, decided that he was gonna take the slop soil surprise and make that into an industry that he could actually make some money off of. You know how high the piles of Prune's Revenge got in New York at the time? 40 to 60 feet. That's higher than a skyscraper.
You could stock a big lake with that brown trout.
Wow. Okay. So listen, when you have this many bum brownies, you get a lot of disease.
Yeah. There was probably diseases floating around. Well, they'd empty their backs and there'd probably all kinds of diseases flying around.
Yeah, we both know that you can't be around too much of the dance belt remains and not get sick after too long. That's tough. And plus the other fact that, forget the fact that you're sitting there, you're walking down the street and you're like, okay, what am I going to do? I have to sit here, and the first thing I got to do is I have to dodge this flotsam night soil. And the other part is the horses themselves are basically cars.
They're just blowing mud everywhere.
With minds of their own, walking through it, don't even care. They said if you compared horse-related fatalities in Chicago in 1916 versus automobile accidents in 1997, you were 7 times more likely to die in Chicago in 1916.
From a horse?
From a horse.
A horse disease, or?
No, just a horse running you over, sitting on you, or hitting you with a fast guano heave-ho.
Times were tough back then. They were dangerous times, and I salute anyone who survived during that time and made it through.
This is where I would really love to get a clip of Christian Bale in the hit movie Newsies singing about how he wants to go to Santa Fe. The real reason he wanted to go to Santa Fe was because there was a lot of the slop soil surprise.
What are you talking about?
You ever see the movie Newsies?
I don't remember Christian Bale in it, but I guess he was. I didn't know he was in that young.
Christian Bale was the lead in the musical movie Newsies that was put out by Disney. And when they're dancing there and they're all talking about, and he has this solo where he sings about Santa Fe. It's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
And nowhere in his dancing is he hitting the muck zoo droppings of 150,000 horses.
He didn't, in Newsies, he never chops a log or
Never.
curls some pipe or debulks or defecates, anything like that.
Nothing with a cockeyed dirty deed and doesn't step in it and turn around and go, that's the last time I get the excrement stool bounty hunter.
Yeah. I think I liked his later movies where he wasn't doing so much of, laying bricks or cables or torpedoes or anything like that.
Or singing about Santa Fe.
Singing. Yeah, Santa Fe.
These are the unrecorded moments of Bruce Wayne's early life after his parents
Are
were
you
killed.
even talking about the story anymore? Or what's going on here?
Listen,
we're talking about
the whole point of this is back in 1894, they predicted that by 1950, New York would be buried in 9 feet of turd bounties.
9 feet.
Every street would be piled with 9 feet because they couldn't imagine that we would possibly be able to clean it up. And then what happened after 1894?
It got buried. And then they built on top of it. They built a new city.
Cars.
Oh, cars. They didn't use the whip and buggy anymore. It was cars.
Right. And what do cars have?
But they drove cars on top of the 9 feet of crap.
No.
That was the new foundation for the new city, right?
I don't know what they did with it. I just know they got rid of I don't know what they did with the horses either. Kind of horrifying. But
they turned it into
cars prevented us from getting buried in
poop. Oh, sorry, can't say that word.
Well, yeah, now you ended it. The whole podcast is over. That's it.
Oh, sorry. Gonna pack my underwear now.
Whoopsie daisy.
Recycle some fiber.
I'll catch you next time.
That is one big pile of shit.